Okay, it's about 20 minutes after 1 on Thursday, April 3rd. I read an article today in The Guardian that just sent my blood pressure and my anger through the roof, not about anything that's going on currently, but about something that happened during the last campaign. And specifically, it's something that made me extremely angry for and on behalf of Kamala Harris. Reporter Chris Whipple has a new book coming out called Uncharted: How Trump Beat Biden, Harris, and the Odds in the Wildest Campaign in History. And in that book, he interviewed a guy named Ron Klain, who had been Joe Biden's chief of staff in the White House for the first 2 years of Biden's presidency, and is someone who has been an aide to Joe Biden for over 20 years, I think. He was his chief of staff in the Senate, and I'm pretty sure he worked in the Obama-Biden White House. He may have been Biden's chief of staff when he was vice president as well. I mean, someone who has been very, very, very close, very trusted advisor to Joe Biden for over 20 years. And I'm going to read a couple things from this article. The bottom line is that Joe Biden's team knew what was going to happen at the debate with Donald Trump. They knew what was going to happen, and they let that debate happen anyway. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's a bad thing. I don't know. But they knew ahead of time what was going to happen. In a new book, Joe Biden's former White House chief of staff paints a devastating picture of the then U.S. president's mental and physical state before the debate with Donald Trump that sent his 2024 campaign into a tailspin, resulting in his relinquishing the Democratic nomination to Kamala Harris. According to Klain, it turned out that Biden, quote, didn't know what Trump had been saying and couldn't grasp what the back and forth was. Biden left preparation and debate prep, and fell asleep by the pool. He was obsessed about foreign leaders, saying, these guys say I'm doing a great job as president, so I must be a great president. Biden didn't really understand what his argument was on inflation, and he had nothing to say about a second term other than finish the job. As described by Klain to the reporter Chris Whipple, at one point, Biden had an idea. He was just going to look at Trump during the debate with a perplexed look on his face, saying that if he looked at him with a perplexed look on his face, then people would pick up on the fact that Trump had no idea what he was talking about. It turns out Biden did that anyway, and it had the exact opposite effect of what Joe Biden... We beat Medicare. Yeah. But in an interview about his book, the author, Chris Whipple, he said, I happen to think that to call what happened here a cover-up is too simplistic. I think it was way stranger and more troubling than that. Biden's inner circle, his closest advisors, many of them were in a fog of delusion and denial. They believed what they wanted to believe. Now, Ron Klain was one of the people who, in 2022, following the midterms, believed that Joe Biden should run for re-election, that he was the guy to beat Trump. And then Ron Klain left to go do other things, but came back for depot prep and for some campaign stuff in 2024. And when he came back to help Biden get ready for the debate, at his first meeting with Biden at Aspen Lodge, the president's cabin, as they were starting debate prep, Klain was startled. He'd never seen Biden so exhausted and so out of it. Biden was unaware of what was happening in his own campaign. Halfway through the session, the president excused himself and went off to sit by the pool. That evening, Biden met with Klain and his team. We sat around a table. Biden had answers on note cards, and he was extremely exhausted, and I was struck by how out of touch with American politics he was. He was very, very focused on his interactions with NATO leaders. Klain wondered half seriously if Biden thought he was president of NATO instead of the U.S. They organized 2 mock debates focusing on domestic policy. The first was scheduled to last 90 minutes, but Klain called it off after 45. The president's voice was shot, as was his grasp of the subject. All he could really talk about was his infrastructure plan and how he was rebuilding America and 16 million jobs. He had nothing to say about his agenda for his second term. Klain said that Biden grew irritable, saying he would not make promises as he would be criticized for failing to deliver. Klain said he tried to persuade Biden to run on unfinished business, including his attempt to do some other things. Biden seemed befuddled. But Biden didn't want to talk about these things. 25 minutes into the second mock debate, the president was done for the day. I'm too tired to continue. I'm afraid of losing my voice, and I just feel bad. I just need some sleep. I'll be fine tomorrow. And he just left and went to bed. The president was fatigued, befuddled, disengaged. Klain feared the debate with Trump would be a nationally televised disaster. And it was. On stage for 2 hours and 6 minutes, Biden stumbled, stared, and mumbled. As described by the author Chris Whipple, Jill Biden praised her husband's debate performance, but everybody else around the president could see that something was terribly wrong. Whipple quotes an unnamed close friend of Biden's who took a call from Valerie Biden Owens. The president's sister and longtime advisor was so angry she was practically incoherent. The same friend reports a later call from Biden where Biden was laughing at his predicament and sounding like the senator and vice president of old. Eventually, Biden bowed to reality and withdrew from the race on July 21st. They knew it was going to happen. They knew ahead of time it was going to happen. And then when Biden did drop out and Kamala Harris came in, that was opposed by Barack Obama and Nancy Pelosi. Eventually they came around. But Biden and his campaign infrastructure told Kamala Harris repeatedly, you have to toe the line in supporting the things that Joe Biden did during his term. And Joe Biden said to her several times, no daylight. There can't be any daylight between you and me on the campaign trail, meaning you have to support and affirm and ratify everything that I did as president while you're campaigning for that same job. Doing that during a period of time when his approval ratings were in the mid-30s. And he had just had to withdraw from the race because of his debate performance against Donald Trump. And as I'm reading things like this, my thinking is evolving. I was irritated. Well, 2 things. I had said, before we had gotten a lot of this reporting, I had said that the 3 biggest mistakes that Kamala Harris made during her campaign was when she appeared on The View and they asked her, is there anything that you would have done differently than Joe Biden? And she said, no, I can't think of anything. Well, now we know why she said that, because most of the people on her campaign she inherited from Joe Biden, and Joe Biden, the president of the United States, told her to say that, which, you know, whether she should have broken from that or not is a different issue, but at least now we have an explanation for why she said that. Second, she did not respond at all to Trump's anti-trans ad, which was an effective ad. Whether you like it or not, it was. Sorry, I had to sneeze. I have a cold. And the third thing that I thought was a mistake was closing out her campaign with Liz Cheney. And it's like, now it's just like, I don't really see how I can take issue with anything that Kamala did during her campaign in reality, because Joe Biden's entire team knew for months that he was not up to the job physically, cognitively, mentally, and they lied to us, the American public. They did not tell us. They were not honest with us about the condition of Joe Biden, and in perpetrating that falsehood on an entire nation, they completely hamstrung Kamala Harris and then put handcuffs on her when they did turn the campaign over to her. And so the reason we have a second Trump term is because of Joe Biden and his team of close advisors. I feel very confident and clear in saying that. They lied to us about Biden's condition. They probably lied to Biden about his condition. And when Biden finally did drop out of the race and they turned the race over to Kamala Harris, they just absolutely hamstrung her and handcuffed her in a way that I don't know how she could have possibly won. And so this second Trump term, right now, I'm viewing as being almost entirely at the feet of Joe Biden and his senior advisors. It's just absolutely unconscionable what they did.